Huh? Some of you have really good eyes and you can tell which side you're supposed to be matching just by looking at the picture. We are going to use the statement to actually add tick marks. Now notice that we don't have anything on the inside. We only have side lengths. So for the side lengths, we're going to use tick marks to represent the sides that are congruent. If they were angles, we would use arc marks on the corners or on the insides. So let's start with X, just because X is nice. We have to find X, Y, and Z, so let's start with X. X is here, 12X minus 7. I'm going to put 1 tick mark on the side. This side is U to V. If I look at my congruency statement from yesterday, UV is the first 2 letters. So what will that match with in the second triangle? TS, because it's the first 2 letters. So I'm going to add 1 tick mark to TS. That tells me those 2 sides are congruent because they both have 1 tick mark. Let's look at the Y equation. So where's Y? Y is RS. RS is the last 2 letters of the second statement. So I'm going to put 2 tick marks here. What is that going to match with on the first triangle? WV, because it's the last 2 letters of the first triangle. So WV. So I'm going to put 2 tick marks there. Obviously, if you have common sense, the last missing side would also match the last missing side. So I'm going to put 3 tick marks and 3 tick marks. So what does being congruent actually even mean? They're the same. They're equal. So let's start with X. What equation can I write for X if they're congruent to another side on the other triangle? What? Set them equal. So let's do 12X minus 7 for the first one. And what does that equal on the other triangle? 53, because they both have 1 tick mark. Take a second, solve your 2-step equation. Super easy peasy. What you did in like 7th grade. You're going to add and divide. And then try to write out the equation for the Y. You're setting things equal. Once you have the tick marks, the pieces of the equation, because you match the pieces of the actual triangle. So we're going to find X, Y, and Z. That's the directions. Oh, no. We don't have to plug it in. Because it just says find X, Y, and Z. It doesn't say find the lengths. Which also, we would already know the lengths. We know that it equals 53, it equals 50, it equals 57. So we just need to find that. Why? So serious. So what do we get for X when we divide? 5. If you haven't yet, write your equation for Y. Look at your Y. See how many tick marks you put with it and figure out, does Y, is that going to equal what on the other triangle? Try to match the pieces, set them equal to each other. That's 57. You gotta do Y and Z. Yes, that's 57 for Y. Perfect.
Let's see. So maybe they lost all.
Does anybody know what the Z equation is going to be equal to? Z is not going to be, okay. This equation is going to be equal to 50. And then that's what you get when you solve. Yeah. You're a step ahead of it.
Well, you said you're what?
I said.
Oh, Z, I got 4.
Oh, okay. Shh, quiet. They're not done. You're done. They're not done. Okay, so when you take 90 and you divide by 5, what do you get for Y? 18. For Z, this one I'm going to minus 14 because it says plus 14. So I'm going to minus 14. Bless you. 50 minus 14 is 36. And then when I divide, what do I get? 12. Okay. Notice all of that problem was on the outside of the triangle because they're all side lengths. Okay. We don't have to plug it back in because we already know technically what it would be equal to. We already know this would be equal to 50. We already know this would be equal to 57. This would already be equal to 53 because they're matching parts. That's why we don't have to plug it back in because then we would just solve X and Y if you have common sense and understand what congruent means. Anyways, moving on. So number 7, this time, notice that the stuff is on the inside of the triangle. So we're not going to put these little tick marks because those represent the sides. We're going to use arc marks. I think that's what they're called. Arc marks, angle marks. I don't really know. Those little curvy things to match the angles on the inside of the triangles. So let's start with, I don't know, where's Z or where's X? Let's start with X. So X is H. If I look at my congruency statement, what is H going to match with? What? N, because they're both in the middle. So I'm going to put an arc mark where H is, and I'm going to put an arc mark where N is. Those match. Let's look at Y. Y is F. 3y minus 1. I'm going to put 2 arc marks there. What would F match with in the first triangle? S. There's nothing there. I'm going to put 2 arc marks there anyways. Okay. And then the last one is the last one. So obviously it's going to match. So I'm going to put 3 arc marks there. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So let's start with X. Do I always start with the middle number? No, I just like picked one. So I started with, I started with this equation because it had an X and usually we solve for X first. So that's H, which is the middle letter. And it just ironically is the middle letter over there. So I just chose to pick it, but it doesn't matter which one I start with. So let's start with the X. So I'm going to do 6x minus 29. What is that going to be equal to from the other triangle? 115, because they both have 1 arc mark. So take a second, solve for X. And calculator. 10 plus 20. Ooh, what the heck? Okay, what's 115 plus 129? 144. So when I divide, what do I get? What? 20. Okay, let's set up Y's equation.
Have another paper.
No, we don't have another paper today. That's the only paper. So Y, what are we supposed to do for Y? That's weird. Okay, so we have 3y minus 1 and we have nothing. Does anybody? Well, they equal each other, but this would be equal to this, but there's nothing there. Huh? So do you want to solve for Z first?
I can solve for you, yeah.
Okay, let's do Z. Technically, there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. It's geometry, so there's not like one way. Let's do Z first. 4Z minus 32 is going to be equal to how much?
Wait, no, we're going to equal
To 36, because Z matches with 36. And then we'll figure out how to find Y in the end. So I'm going to add 32, and then I divide by 4. So when I divide by 4, what do I get for Z? 17. Okay, who's got a big enough brain in this class to figure out how to find Y?
You gotta plug it in. You gotta plug X in.
Okay, so if I plug X in, so going back to this, I know this is 36. I need to find S, so that way I can set it equal to F. To find this missing angle, technically, if I plug X back in, if I do 6 times 24 minus 29, how much is H going to end up being? 115, which is ironic because that is the same as this, which that's because they're congruent. So if this is 115, you could do one of 2 things. You could add a whole triangle and equal it to 180, and you have that really long obnoxious equation. Or if a triangle adds to make 180 and you know one of the angles is 115 and this one's 36, how much does S have to be to add to make 180? 29. So 29 is here. 29 is technically also here. So I don't even have to make a really long equation to equal it to 180. I can just take 29 and equal it to 3y minus 1 because I found that missing angle by plugging it back in. So 3y minus 1 equals 29. So this is the point of the year where multiple things are going to start falling into place and you're going to have to do like multiple steps and add in the old stuff that we learned about to get to like the next step. So it's still a two-step equation. We found the missing angle is 29. So I'm going to add 1 and divide. Huh? You may equal. Yes. No, I don't know. Okay, go equal. Leave your phone. It's fast. Yeah, please don't. And then, so how much is the final answer? 10. How do we feel? Not too bad? Not too bad, not too bad. The next one is exactly the same, but there's no picture. Oh no. What should we do? Draw it out. When in doubt, let's draw it out. Okay, so you always have like this extra space down at the bottom of your picture or at the bottom of your paper. So I'm going to draw them down here so that way I can like do the math here. So I'm going to do number 8 over here. It says DEF is congruent to JKL. When you draw this out, it doesn't matter if you draw an obtuse triangle, an acute triangle, a right triangle. I tend to always draw the triangles to look exactly the same. I literally have 2 congruent triangles, so don't make your life difficult and don't make them different. Make them the same. One of the letters, shh, be quiet. One set is DEF. It does not matter where you put D, E, F on your triangle. I'm going to put them at the corners. D, E, and F. However you put the first letters is how you have to write the second letters. So D is in the bottom left corner. What should be in the bottom left corner of the other triangle? J. I put E at the top. What should be at the top? K. And L. Don't mix it up. Don't make your life harder than it is. Okay. Now that we have our cute little triangles, we're going to take the information. We're going to put it on the picture. Notice these use 2 letters. So it's a side length. So the first side, D to E, is 18. So that goes between D and E because it's a side. The next one is EF. That's a side. It goes between E and F. 23 because it's a side. DF is 9x minus 23. The next one, it says J to L is 7x minus 11. JK is 3y minus 21. We just have to find X and Y. We don't have a Z in this problem. Does anybody see the side that is extra that we're not going to use at all that has a number on it? 23. 23 has no corresponding part. We are not going to use 23. It's literally there to throw us off. He has no friend. We're not going to use him. We're going to match the corresponding parts on the other triangles. So 18 matches with what? Perfect. Oh my gosh. And then you're going to match the other 2, which is 9x minus 23 equals x plus 1. Yeah. Yes, first off. Okay. Oh. And then, like I was saying, the bottom is going to match the bottom. So you're solving for X, you're solving for Y. Realistically, it doesn't matter which one you solve for first. Sometimes you don't have enough information to solve for one of them, but in this case, we have enough. It doesn't matter the order you do it in. So okay. 3y equals 39. So has anybody got Y yet? 13. Nice. And then the X, obviously you have numbers on both sides and X's on both sides. So you just have a little bit more work, but it's not bad. So I'm going to add 23 to get rid of my negative. 9x equals 7x. Negative 11 plus 23 gives me how much? 12, good. And then I'm at minus 7x. So 2x, good. So x equals 6, nice. Okay, perfect. So try to set up number, what number is that? Try to set up number 9. I would use this space down here, same thing. You're gonna draw out your pictures. I would make them exactly the same. You have different letters. Put the sides on the sides. And then if it says an angle, the measure of an angle, that goes on the inside corner. That's why it's one letter. Draw your little pictures. So when you're not done, oh nice. That's math. Five shadows a lot. Do you get like picked to do shadows? Or like someone on the phone, we don't know how much engagement. Do you know this person? Well, tomorrow we're like not doing math. We're like doing lettery stuff again. So it'll be like easy fun. I'm sorry. What? Okay, let's put our stuff in the picture. So QR is 11. That's a side, so that should be on the outside. QS is a side, so that's 15. And P is a side, so that's 2x plus 1. The measure of angle S goes in the picture because it's an angle, it's not a side. So S is 84 degrees. So I'm going to do this in a different color. So 84 degrees is in the corner. R, angle R is 32. So it's on the inside because it's an angle. And then the measure of M is 17y minus 4. So see if your picture is set up correct. X should be okay to try to solve for. So take a minute, solve for X. X is a side. The Y equation is a little bit harder because it's an angle. The line triangle out to get that. Let's think about it. See if we're in range of power. Based on the triangles are the same.
You told me it doesn't matter how.
Yeah, so the only thing is, you put. So we write this first to RS and then M10. But then one of the rest. R is 11, QX is 15, and oh, no, this is good. Okay. So these three, because they're both on the left side. Here's the first. Find your matching pieces, put them with each other. So there's two ways you can do it. This obviously 32, right? This is obviously the first. Or you can think this further. This is 32. Wherever you get here. That's that. So either way, technically, gets you the same answer. So for the X equation, what should I set 2x plus 1 equal to? Should it be equal to 11 or should it be equal to 15? 15 because they're both the base or whatever side, however you drew yours. Either way, it should match with 15. So I'm minusing 1 and I'm dividing by 2. So what do I get? 7. Perfect. For the y is on the inside. Has anybody figured out how to find y? Because you good. And how much do you get for q? 64. So 64 can go here because a triangle adds to make 180 in total. So if all of these add to make 180, now I know Q matches with M. And instead of making a really big equation and adding to make 180 in total, I could just set these equal to each other because I know the missing angle was 64 because a triangle adds to make 180. So 17y. So the math is not really difficult in geometry. I think we know this by now. It's more of like applying multiple different concepts to a problem and like figure out what to do with that. So we're going to add 4. And then divide. So y equals how much? 4. That's an ugly problem. So we did the front completely because we did half of it yesterday, half of it today. Yesterday, you should have done 1 through 6 on the back. Today, you're finishing the back. I think you have 5 problems. Yeah, back over there, back revising. You're going to take a picture of the back and you're going to put it online. So start working on it. If you need me to see if your equations are set up, like ask me and I can check before you start solving it.
What are the for the other thing? Oh,
Yeah, you don't have to really do that exercise. So you should have did 1 through 6 yesterday. So you're starting at 7. Matching sides. I would start by putting little tick marks. XS matches with DF. Put your little tick marks and match your sides using your congruency statement. What's up?